Hello, everybody. I think we don't have any first timers here yet. So welcome to our first meeting of 2026. And tonight we've got our own crew to facilitate the meeting about climate adaptation. I want to make a brief pitch for next month. Tonight, we're just talking in general about climate adaptation. Next month, we're going to specifically be welcoming the environmental director from the Pala Band of Mission Indians here in Fallbrook, and she will be talking about the Pala climate adaptation plan that they've had since 2019. Very comprehensive plan that they have in place.
I have that at the end, Joy.
Okay. So first I'm going to introduce Tom. And Tom is one of the founders of FCAT. And he's a retired Boeing engineer also. So he's going to show you his slideshow.
Well, so the idea for this came up was that, we've tried mitigating, and it appears that mitigation hasn't worked, and so now it's upon us, and we're going to have to adapt. Okay, so here we are. So I said, first, the bad news: climate change is happening, and one of the things we'll talk about some more is that global temperatures are rising. And as you see on this, I don't have a lot of charts on here because I know people don't like charts like I do, but here it shows start 1950 on the left. Every year, lots of cities were setting records for the coldest year on record. And very few were setting records for the hottest year on record. But as we go to the right over time to the present, you see that all of a sudden, all these cities are setting records for the highest temperatures on their record until we get up to 2025, and you see it's the hottest year on anybody's record.
Wow.
And we're experiencing extreme weather or new recreation opportunities to go canoeing in your street. I'm sorry, I have a new computer and the rules on this thing is different. Why is this thing?
Try your right arrow key.
So with the higher temperatures, we see that ice sheets, the top and bottom of the world, are melting. Greenland is losing a lot of its ice mass. Antarctica is. And that's leading to higher sea levels. Yet, ironically, our biggest problem is that we don't have enough water because of drought. The United Nations says that we have a global water bankruptcy. Bankruptcy occurs when you don't put in as much as you're withdrawing. And with the reduced rain and snowfall, we have the mountains have lower snowpack, and that melting snowpack can't get us through the summer anymore. And all the major rivers in the world are oversubscribed. The Colorado River has been in the news a lot lately. All the states and cities along the Colorado all claim to have contracts that entitles them to receive water, and it's over 100%. If everybody gets their water, it's over 100%. So how can we adapt to this? Now, I thought this was a nice chart. In the United Kingdom, 71% of the people, it says two-thirds are concerned about climate change. And so they're trying to do something. 71% are reducing their plastic usage. Half the people are driving less and shopping locally. But what's everybody else going to do? How can we adapt? Here's how we adapt in America. We just deny it. We just say it isn't happening. In the redwoods, there was this plaque. You see it's a little trail that they have, a wooden path, and there was this plaque here. And the plaque is below this.
God.
That plaque was there, and it was explaining how redwood trees help us by absorbing carbon dioxide. And that's why it's important that we take care of our redwood trees. Well, we here in America decided that we didn't want no plaques talking about climate change. So they just ripped it out. That's one way of adapting. Just deny it. Feels good, right? Maybe it's not even happening. But there is good news. Half the people think something can be done. I'll let you guess which half that is. And there actually are a lot of good ideas around the world of some fascinating ideas. Here's the Netherlands on the left, wind farm and solar farm. But I love this one about the street. They're taking the cars off the street, which is partly mitigating the problem and not letting out so much exhaust, so much CO2 in the atmosphere. And it's safe to bicycle. Look at that street. There's bicycles all over the place. And the picture on the right is showing how Copenhagen has figured out how they need to capture all of their rainfall, which they get a lot in Denmark. They get a lot of rain in Denmark and a lot of snow. But they capture these reservoirs and they make all these parks down on the ground level with trees. Here's some more examples. Whoops, sorry. In Canada, Toronto and Montreal are increasing tree cover and green spaces. improving the biodiversity and ecosystem. Dresden, Germany has got this project for urban gardening network. That's the key here, is that we look at ways that we can mitigate and we think, well, maybe if I don't use it, maybe if I don't use a straw, well, if I don't use one straw, I don't think that ends climate change. But of course, it's numbers. If millions and millions of people do, it can make a significant difference in the amount of plastic waste. And it's the same thing here with in Chicago, they've gone to having green rooftops to help capture stormwater, drain it into their reservoirs. They'll lose it. Here in Fallbrook, all the water that falls, it gradually works its way down to the San Luis Rey River, which ends up in the Pacific Ocean. The best thing to do is to find a way to capture that water long before it gets to the Pacific Ocean. And we see in China, they got this big project for sponge cities. In the United States, we've been tearing up our wetlands, but some places are learning how to actually take advantage of make wetlands. China's plan is to capture all 80% of stormwater runoff in urban areas by 2030. In Germany and India, they had heat waves that killed a lot of people. So they've changed some things now, training healthcare people, distributing water, painting the roofs of their houses with white reflective paint, which reduces the heat of the house. Joy wanted us to do that.
Well, we painted it pink instead.
Just as good.
So in Germany and India, they said they had a similar heat wave in May 2015, and fewer than 20 people died. Again, it can't just be one person doing this. It involves a lot of people and spending a lot of money. So if we're to survive through climate change, it's gonna take joint action. A lot of people working together and agreeing to spend our tax money into fixing things with some of these ideas. Here in South Africa, there's many places in South Africa where they didn't have access to clean water. So they found a way to make football fields for the kids that would capture rainwater, store it, filter it, and supply plenty of water to the kids. They don't do that everywhere, but they do it in places where there's little or no access to clean water. So for recommendations, the United Nations these aren't unique, but I was surprised to see that the United Nations spoke out and said the same thing that we kind of say: save energy at home. And again, it can't just be, I turned off a light switch that doesn't end climate change. I need tens of millions of people to be doing that all the time. And that will reduce our CO2. Changes the home source of energy. And we understand that that's not a cheap thing to do. Not everybody can do that. Walk, bike, or take public transport. But we need government action to make it safe to walk and bike and to provide public transport. Consider your travel. Well, I read something where if you don't take a round trip on an airplane, you save some huge number of CO2. Well, Joy and I got a trip planned next week, and I'll bet if we canceled that trip, somebody else would take our seats, and the airplane would still go. So again, it's a numbers thing. Everybody has to do it. San Diego County has their own recommendations. Again, first one's lower your energy consumption. These are obvious. I think everybody knows this. Transportation, reduce plastic use. And I think a lot of us do this every day anyway. Invest in our ecosystem, participate in neighborhood cleanups. We did have something like that here in Fallbrook not too long ago. It kind of fell apart for lack of volunteers. However, San Diego, I think they were one of our speakers once called I Love a Clean San Diego. And they organize neighborhood cleanups and do a lot of other good things. And conserving water, of course. Now, some of these things you could save money by lowering energy consumption and save money by conserving water. But some of these things, like buying solar power or your own little windmill, is expensive, or there's space constraints. What do you guys think? Is there any good advice here?
When I bought my house, I was downsizing, and I basically installed a mini split heating and air conditioning system, replacing the previous energy hogs. And I replaced the hot water heater with a heat pump version. But altogether, those cost like $5,000. So because I was downsizing to a smaller house, I had a little bit of money to spend on upgrades, and I also installed a white roof. So between all these energy saving things, I minimized my energy use, but it really did cost a lot of money.
Well, we do have a public power utility that we can get our electricity from. And one of the things that we can do is lobby them to help people with grants to make it affordable for people to get some of these utilities, get some of these products.
I bought an older house and I also paid $5,000 to replace the single pane windows with double pane windows. So everywhere, I mean, I really made this house snug and comfortable and low energy use, but it really did cost money every time I turned around.
Mhm.
I have a electric assist bike that I ride around Fallbrook, and not only is that good for exercise, but electric assist bikes are one of the most efficient energy consuming vehicles that you can use for travel. And they're not that expensive.
The cheapest e-bike that I could find was about $1,000. And most of the people I see riding the e-bikes are not using the pedal assist. They're just riding purely on electricity. So I see lots and lots of e-bikes now because of people getting subsidies and they're sort of sexier. But I don't see any increase in bicycles and I don't see also any increase in pedestrian use.
Yeah, it seems like the e-bikes are being used by teenagers a lot because it's not cool to have a regular bicycle anymore.
And there are three classes of e-bikes, and one of them is the pedal assist, and the other one allows you to go forward on power alone, and the third class is basically a motorcycle.
That's what the teenagers are using motorcycle.
They are actually.
They don't even have driver's licenses.
Some regulations are afoot, at least in some communities, to keep them off of the motorcycle type.
Yeah, I went to an event where Kyle Crayall was collecting signatures so he can get on the ballot run for Board of Supervisors. And Kyle rode a little electric bike there, real small wheel diameter, and but had a real long seat post. So it fit him. And I asked him about it, and he said it cost $400, and he got it at someplace like Target or something like that. But yeah,
There are
I was pleased to see that he did ride his little electric bike there, and it did have pedals. He pedals it, and I remember he used to ride his bicycle a lot. I assume he has bicycles also, but anyway, he was kind of showing off his little small electric bike.
Well, Glenn pointed out something. He doesn't have a microphone, so I'll read it for him. That cycling is much harder on our rural roads. We have no bike lanes and a lot of hilly roadways. So it's just the plain cycling in Fallbrook is more difficult.
Yeah, I agree with Glenn because
Yeah,
I walk around a lot and there's just no space for bicycles and they're on the sidewalks downtown and I always yield to them because I'm happy to see people at least getting out of their cars and but there's so many hills in Fallbrook. Even just walking, you huff and puff sometimes because you go up grades and it's tough to cycle to pedal a bicycle. I would think. Plus, so the hills plus the lack of bike lanes, it's just tough.
That's where the electric assist for pedaling is really helpful.
Yeah, the bicycle has been my primary mode of transportation since I was around 25. I started riding to work at Lockheed, and I've always been pretty active in the movement. I'm vice chair of the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee in Oceanside, and they have a class on cycling in traffic, and that effective cycling class is what it started. It has different names now, smart cycling and those kind of things. But basically, they teach people about the car bike accident statistics, and that leads you to have a little different opinion about where the dangers actually are. And it's not actually from overtaking traffic, although that type of accident does happen. It kills people. But it's kind of like head-on collisions in a car. Those things happen and people die. But
Do
if
you
you're going to
try
drive,
to,
you got to trust that that won't happen. And bicycling is kind of like that. There's an element
did
of
you,
trust there.
did your group try to lobby for safer bike lanes?
We lobby for, it's class 2 bike lanes, not the things that are separated by curb stops, which are very dangerous. If you hit those curb stops, you're going to fall violently. And the bollards, that type of bike lane is a class 4. And we question the studies which claim that they're safer. We think they're more dangerous. But the class 2 is kind of the way we used to think of bike lanes. And you're only protected by paint. There's no doubt about it. But it kind of helps you ride the proper ways. And we're also big supporters of class 1, which is totally separated, a bike trail kind of thing. And we have some in Oceanside. We'd like to expand that system, coastal rail trail, inland rail trail, and then we have the San Luis Rey Trail, which is heavily used.
Tom, did you have some more slides?
Not really. Let's see.
Yeah, I'd like to comment on your slide with the trees on the roof. That's really, really important because I have been thinking about the floods that happened to the city of San Diego and the huge lawsuits and the fact that they don't have money to maintain those storm drains. And it comes from runoff of solid surface, and that's roads, parking lots, and also the roofs of buildings. And so trees on the buildings, I hadn't thought about that. That really would help that runoff. And of course, trees sequester carbon. So it's a win all the way around, although it's got to be a structure designed for that. But
Yes.
good idea.
A lot of modern cities are requiring that. I think Seoul, Korea is one of them. You don't build a building without that on.
Fantastic information.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing, 101 things you could do. One thing you need to do is get on a first name basis with the people on your city council and your board of supervisors and talk to them. And I try to do that. And that's really good information, Cynthia, that you just gave me, because Oceanside is booming. We're approving a lot of tall buildings around our transit centers, which there's a lot of good there. They're doing it the right way, but I haven't heard anybody putting trees on the roof, and that's Seoul, Korea. It's required. That's really good for me to know. Thank you.
Glenn commented on the library's living roof, and it was in place for like 10 or 12 years, but they basically just removed it and put up a dark colored metal roof instead. And there was some problems with leaking. That is, the plants, the watering system for the plants. You don't necessarily want water on your roof in addition to what falls with rain. So living roofs, green roofs have not caught on as being mandated by new building codes or whatever. I mean, I don't know why they haven't caught on, but I have to say that I don't necessarily want an irrigation system on my roof running water every couple of times a week or something like that, because inevitably you're going to end up with leaks.
I think they build it. Come to think of it, there's a 12-story building in North City, and North City is really San Marcos. It's really right by Kaiser in San Marcos. I kind of walk down there and walk around all the time, and there's this very tall building, the tallest building down there. And about the 7th story, they have some huge trees that they've put up there. Cranes, they could put these big trees up there, and they did. Come to think of it, it's not the full. It's 12 stories, but from 7 on up, it's only about half the area that's being taken up, and so they have like a park up there with trees. It looks like it's just opening up. I mean, it says for lease. They've got a big sign for lease, and I've called and looked up. I've gone online. I didn't call. I actually went online. It was interactive. It was like I was talking to somebody, but it was all AI or something. But anyway, I found out a lot about how they're running it. But there are big trees up there.
You could put a great big cookie pan below it. Fill the cookie pan up with the dirt, and all the water would be funneled off safely. But yeah, it's complicated, really complicated.
Yeah, they designed for it. I mean, they thought of it, and it's been around, and I don't think they'd do it if it wasn't going to work. I remember
Well,
San
I
Francisco had some buildings in Golden Gate Park, and I think it was a museum or aquarium or something like that, big public building, and they had trees up there. So that was almost 20 years ago, but they did have that.
Hmm.
Let's see Cynthia's slides, if your slides are done, Tom.
Are you?
I had one more.
Okay.
Here's the thing. What if it's a big hoax and we create a better world for nothing?
Yeah, I kind of wonder about people that say let's burn all fossil fuel, because there is a finite amount of it in the planet, and like really, what are our great grandchildren and great like what's going to happen in 250, 250 or 300 years? Are we going to use up all the fossil fuels, and then what's going to happen in the future?
Well, all I know is I hate clean air. I hate cheap electricity. So I certainly hope that we don't create that world.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
And back to Tom's point about, should I use a straw or not? And I investigated rain barrels, and the county sells rain barrels at subsidized rates, and I got 2 rain barrels. I was all gung ho, but number one, it was going to require that I alter my downflow spouts. And number two, the rain barrels need to be cleaned out every year because they get really grody. And number three, during the rainy season, I don't ever water. And so basically at the end of the rainy season, I would have a rain barrel with 50 gallons of water. Well, I use several thousand gallons of water on my irrigation system each month during the summer dry season. So I kind of went, well, all this work, changing my downspouts, and then cleaning the rain barrels and all this stuff for 50 gallons, which is not going to make a difference at all
In a big plastic barrel.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, I just bailed on the rain barrels. I gave them away to somebody.
Yeah, I couldn't see it either.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fill them all up, and that water isn't going to last very long.
Yeah, and you got to have an overflow
Right.
because
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, it depends on where you live, what kind of systems you're going to put in. For us, it's solar. That's all that free sunshine up there.
I would
solar.
say about the concern of using all the fossil fuels. I don't think we can put that stuff into our atmosphere. Our atmosphere is very full right now, and so we got to leave it in the ground. My talk in October, I talked about carbon is either sequestered or it's a greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, one or the other. And coal is wonderful because it's it's carbon which is sequestered, just like a tree or just like natural gas or oil. All of those things need to be left in the ground. They're precious because they keep that carbon out of the atmosphere. And just the worst thing we could do is dig it up and burn it.
More
So
coal.
just leave it where it is, and we have a chance to not destabilize the climate.
Oh, I'm sorry, do
Okay.
you want to show your
Sure,
site?
sure. It's a slightly different take on the same thing.
Okay, go
It's
ahead.
and I started with the same premise as you, Tom, which is that um, mitigation hasn't worked. And it's time for us to be looking another way, which is adaptation to what is pretty much inevitable. So let's see if I can share this. Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. Aha. Okay, that's the wrong slide, but okay, there you go. There's the first slide. Uh, which is very similar to yours, Tom, which is climate change adaptation and resilience, making it personal. So what we can personally do, given that it's already happening and more is coming, how can we personally live with it? So obviously, and I'm pointing this at like each of us to make our own plan for our own household. Because obviously the first thing we've got to do is it's going to be very hot and we've got to find ways to keep the heat out. Harriet said that she spent a lot of money with double pane windows and doing a lot of things and it was expensive. But that's what she's doing. She's dealing with the heat, reducing her need for air conditioning, reducing the chances she's going to collapse from the heat in her own home. So each of our climate adaptation plans needs to cover keeping the heat outside. Okay, and given that it is going to be hotter still, and it is getting hotter, we need to recognize that hot air holds more moisture. And more moisture can be pretty uncomfortable in the form of humidity. I'm not proposing any solutions right here, but we are having increased humidity in our area and other parts of the country. And how are we going to live with that? So this man has found carrying water is handy. But a lot of that moisture is going to be up against us, but not available to us. But it also gives me the idea that there are technologies out there, some of them very, very primitive and simple, to collect water from the atmosphere. Native peoples have done all kinds of things to put like nets and things in trees and have them drain into water bottles. Any event, more humidity. What are you going to do about it for your life? Okay, we're going to have probably stronger and certainly more unpredictable rains. They're going to be coming at odd times of the year. And this is all about what you're going to do in your own home. So we need to make sure that our houses are not going to be inundated by this water. We need to keep our roofs solid. We need to keep our rain gutters cleaned out and doing things to keep the heat out and also the water out, unless you have better plans for what to do when it gets in. Also, with the stronger and more unpredictable rains, we're going to have like little micro flooding. In the complex where I live, there's a lot of hardscape. And when we get a good rain, when we get a good deluge, it all collects in the little ditches that we have and it backs up and it's going into people's houses. And that's going to be happening more and more. So we need to be thinking more and more about the drainage in our neighborhoods and the drainage around our own homes. And using that drainage in in smart ways, if you can keep it away from your house, but you can aim it towards something useful, such as the swales from that we learned about at what was it, Finch Frolic, Diane Kennedy's gardens, that the rain is in large quantities is only bad if it's going in the wrong places. But we can do a lot with contouring around our own homes. Okay, water restricting. Tom pointed out that all the rivers of the world are oversubscribed. The Colorado is oversubscribed. If everybody got, nobody's going to get everything that they have contracted for. And it's equally true of the water that has been developed in the Central Valley Project and the California water projects, and all the little small projects that are done by municipalities around here. Ultimately, we are demanding more water than exists. And we need to make a plan in our own lives, in our own homes, for dealing with water restriction. And that there may be times when water is not available at all. There may be meters put on our water, on our water pipes coming in, and measurements going out that's going to cause, there's going to be fines for overuse. But essentially, we've got to figure out how we can use less water and how we can adapt when there just simply isn't any for periods of time. Intermittent power outages. Our power can be disrupted by storms. It can be disrupted by excessive demand all at once, such as when we have really, really hot days or really, really cold days and people are using a lot of power. But it's something that is in our future to a greater extent than it already is now. And we each need to have our own plan for how do we keep things going? How do we keep our food fresh, for example, with the prospect of intermittent power outages in the not too distant future? Obviously, wildfires are on all of our minds, and we need to make a plan to harden our own homes. There's 1,000 ideas out there for that. One of them would include not having all these bushes around the house, not having a roof that's flammable, not having eaves that have openings, because I'm told by some fire people that a lot of the fires that burn houses down are when the embers are actually sucked up underneath the eaves into the interior of an attic. So there are things you can do to protect your eaves from being vulnerable to embers. So, and this is my last slide. This is really, really short. So the idea is that we can adapt to the inconvenience and shortages that are inevitable and not too far into the future. We can adapt to unpredictability, and we can share our resources and our ideas, but we each need to make a plan for our own home. And I think we need to, those of us who have, kids and grandkids, we need to encourage them to make plans as well for dealing with what is going to happen. So I'm sorry to be so positive about all this, but this is the positive part, that we can actually do something about it, but we shouldn't be caught, without a plan and just be dealing it with burning houses and rotting food. So that
Thanks, Cynthia.
is that. So what I wasn't sure how this today was going to go, but I was going to ask people to share in each of these areas of, water, heat reduction, power preservation, and wildfire home hardening, what kinds of things that people in this group have already done in their own lives to make their future more comfortable. Not so much things that we're doing to keep our carbon emissions down, but things that that we're doing because the carbon emissions are not down. Any ideas?
Again, I installed like 5 feet, 5 or 8 feet of hardscaping around the building with at least a 1 or 2% slope, so that the water does drain away from my house. And I actually got up with I went to Ace Hardware and bought some fine mesh screen, and I cut it up in pieces and went around my house with a ladder and stapled the little mesh pieces over the attic vents. And a fire resistant roof, which I installed, really helped. So but you can get a free a home assessment for fire preparation from MRCD, and the link is on Everything Fallbrook. I don't have it right off the top of my head.
MRCD?
Yeah, let me just look up the link for you. Look on Everything Fallbrook and you scroll down.
Mission Resource Conservation District.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. But it's funded through Cal through the Fire Safe Council of San Diego, and they were going to cut us off back in like October, and we complained, and MRCD, the Ani over there, she went to bat for us and said, hey, we haven't spent all the money yet, and they've extended the program for us here in Fallbrook. I don't know, Cynthia, you're in Carlsbad, so it probably wouldn't apply to you, but yeah, I mean, the inspector is really, I mean, I thought I had already read all the stuff about fire hardening, and I thought I was like perfect, but I figured I would put my money where my mouth was, and she I mean, she pointed out a whole bunch of stuff, and stuff that I should do with my landscaping for the future, and stuff that I can work away at. It was really definitely worth it.
You are definitely acting on your own behalf. I also happen to know that you have the kind of a garden with swales and depressions to make use of the water runoff that is not going into your house.
Yes, indeed.
Mhm.
But again, all that cost money. And now I hired gardeners to help me with that because I have a half an acre, and there's no way it was a weed patch when I got it. So there was no way that I could transform the place by myself, but someone who could do the work themselves could do it very inexpensively.
I wanted to ask either Janet or Sherry to talk a little bit about what kind of work the Land Conservancy does to conserve our open spaces, to promote native plants in the Conservancy's lands. Janet, do you want to talk about that?
Well, sure. It's Janet. The Land Conservancy aims to, restore habitat that we have in these lands around Fallbrook. We use native plants. We try to restore the native plants. We're working at Appleton Preserve right now off of Via Montserrat, and we are involved with the environmental education program, and we have education program for the fourth and fifth grade students. Fifth graders are out and helping us plant the native plants over there at Appleton, and we talk about habitat and the benefits of having native plants, and the fact that native plants don't need a lot of water, so it's saving our resources and not wasting water with some of the invasives and other plants that people bring into the landscape. And they seem to understand that. We also talk about the animals that need these plants, like the gnatcatchers are a protected bird in this area. They only nest in certain plants. And so bringing those plants into our area brings those birds to us. So that's what we're about. And of course, conservation of water and energy.
Plus, you're saving the land from being turned into pavement,
Yes.
and so the ground is able to soak up the rainfall.
Right. Yeah. And trying to get trails out there so people can get out and enjoy nature. We need more nature in our lives.
Thanks, Janet.
You're welcome.
There was a project recently where the restoration team um, built swales because there was runoff from the property above, and I've done that as well. My neighbor up above doesn't really. They have a weed patch, and I have a swale across the top of my property because if they're so dumb as to let their water escape, well, I'll grab it. I mean, you know, I'll take it.
Could you explain what the swell does? It absorbs the water, but then what do you do with it? Does it just get absorbed into the ground?
Well, the thing is that a swale is not only a ditch, but it's also a level spot. So if water comes rushing down a hill and it hits the ditch or the level spot, it basically it stops going downhill, and then it sinks straight down, as opposed to just keep it kind of continuing to rush down the hill. So the point is that it goes straight down, and that hydrates the soil for the summer. I mean, you don't need as much watering of your plants because there's water in the soil that is gone straight down rather than just sluicing off of a hillside because there's nothing to stop it from continuing to just run downhill.
That's right. It redirects our water so that it soaks into the ground. Long-term use. You'll see them like on trails too. They dig swales along the trails because with hills, the water runs down. You see the erosion that occurs, and we try to follow that path and then dig those ditch swales another direction to get that water to go that way, and whichever way, and towards the plants. So those plants get water that they wouldn't ordinarily get. So swales are a good thing.
So I think next month our meeting is going to be really interesting because we can talk to the environmental director of the Paula band, and they are doing a lot of this type of thing, including working with their school kids.
Here she is.
Yeah, and practicing some of these environmental practices and more. So I think it'll be really really interesting to listen to her because we basically live in the same area, and they're not necessarily doing anything new. A lot of what they're doing is to carry out the same practices that they already know how to do. But well, maybe we can learn some new things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if nobody has anything else, I guess we'll thank everybody for joining us tonight, and hopefully see you next month.